Good morning, Faye.
Right.
This is our second video on principle number 3. Today's video is going to be introducing or relaying the negative aspects of this principle when parents aren't taking advantage of it. Of course, it's a principle, so it's still going to be used. The principle number 3 is, of course, that parents are responsible for their own emotional world.
And when we started with families, typically this is one that's always gone wrong, because if parents were able to manage their emotions in a healthier way, there would be less of a trickle down to the kids.
And we said it at the beginning, or I'm sorry, we said it at the end of the last video. When you bring a traumatized child in underneath all of your defenses, there is a lot of pressure on parents.
Yes.
Self-regulation skills need to be much, much higher than, I don't know, normal,
Yeah.
if you want to use that word.
Yeah.
You have to become a master.
You do. And today's society, even, that there's normal families under a huge amount of stress. And we just have come through a year plus of all the COVID stuff, all the social media pressures on kids, the typical teen stuff is not the typical teen stuff that we dealt with. And therefore, families have a huge amount of stress in their system.
All reasons why it's almost a necessity. Well, it's definitely a necessity in today's world that parents recognize.
Yeah.
Our principle number 3, parents need, or adults need, to self-regulate.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of stuff do we see when we walk into a family and we know that tell us, what kind of things tell us that they're not adequately aware of this principle?
I have so many pictures in my head of families that we've worked with. And one of the first ones is the parents are exhausted. They're running on empty, and they say, I don't have time to even go to the bathroom, They just have no self-care. And
Right.
they're just exhausted.
Hurry, 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 way over committed, doing things, trying to get things done.
Right.
Yeah. And what they don't realize is that it's not okay for a parent to say, I've got nothing. I have no capacity now to add in, to address, to change, to contain the emotions that my children bring to me.
What's even more hurtful on top of that is they become resentful if somebody in the family has some self-care or they're doing things, and they might be really snotty, like, boy, I wish I had time to go to lunch with my friends,
Yeah. Oh, I wish I could just sit around and read a book.
That's, yes. Yeah.
And it just always amazes me, people that have that idea that
The victims, the family victim.
alas,
Yes.
this is just my life.
Yes.
I have to be woefully unhappy so others can be sad
I've
or
known
happy.
so many, especially older women that are, it's like they expect one of the crowns in heaven is that victim crown,
Now the male,
Yeah.
but don't get me, the male thing is, coming home and constantly unendingly being frustrated and irritated by your job and amount of
Right.
overtime and talking all the time about how it's such a pain and et cetera. And again, your kids are watching you, and they see, they're hardwired to grow into you,
Right,
but they see you not having a fun life,
right.
and it puts them in a bind.
Yes. Yeah. That's the way they act when we walk into a family. Well, I can tell you the things that they say
Ooh,
are so classic.
tell me something.
They're so classic. He makes me, or she makes me feel this
It
way.
makes me feel so, man.
Yeah, if they would only stop, then I would feel better.
What about the times we come in for a scheduled therapy session and they'll look at you and go, I'm in no mood for this right now.
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
but we're here to help.
Right. But you don't know what Johnny's been doing all morning, or I didn't sleep last night, or my husband said this last night, and I'm just done with him. And so, yeah, there's no room for addressing that mood.
How about
What's
the
that?
flip side?
Yeah.
When we poke around and we're asking for a full range of emotions, we often ask the question, what kind of things have made you angry today? And people will look at you and go, nothing. I'm just not a very angry person. I don't
That's
have
right.
anger.
Yeah.
So again, we take it down and, well, there's frustration, irritation, a little on edge. There's a lot of different ways to say it. But some people will persist. Even
Right.
through all those reframes, they'll persist. No, nothing makes me mad.
And this is kind of hard because some people, especially Christians, see anger as a bad thing.
Right.
They can't admit to it, even though we're told be angry and sin not.
There's
It's
clearly
okay.
a difference between sinning and anger.
But they don't want to be seen as an angry person. But someone in my past said the woman in the kitchen slamming all the cabinet doors is a version of Baptist cussing. It's that angry slamming, and but I don't get angry.
What about this one?
What's that?
What about this one? This is a universal parenting statement.
Child,
you need to change your attitude.
Yes.
But again, we do it in such a way that we're modeling anger and telling them not to be angry.
Right. And we're telling our kid that their emotion is not a valid emotion. So there's all this cascading effects to us not being able to recognize emotions and manage those emotions.
What kind of things do you see in a family unit when, again, this principle isn't being used?
Oh, any talk around emotions, minimize it, reject it, avoid it. There's just no talk. And we can always tell when there is progress because families will intentionally talk about emotions like at the dinner table. They'll set aside time for it. And that whole time piece even is another, you might be mad or scared about your test tomorrow, but you're going to have to get over it and go do dishes. Yeah. So they don't even allow time for appropriate emotions.
Anyone who doesn't recognize the need and the responsibility of controlling their own emotions, when they go to set up a household, they're not going to plan time or discussion around it. They're not going to allocate any efforts into it.
No. And then there's people that it's all about electronics. They're just sucked in. They never have emotions because everything is out here in a virtual world.
When you don't actively, when this happens very young, when as a child you don't adequately learn how to handle your emotions, usually sad and scared, then what happens is you start to do things unintentionally that just take care of it.
Right.
This is where addictions kick in. And these days, video games and FaceTiming and social media, these things can actually look very similar in the brain to chemical addiction.
Yes. Yeah.
And what it is people not thinking that I'm doing this to get away from my sad and scared for a moment. They think that they're doing it for some other reason.
Yeah.
My personal weakness is television. I was trained growing up that you watch a certain number of hours of television a night. And when I have really, really tough day, I watch television and I notice that I don't even care what I'm watching. It just, I needed to shut my brain off, and that's not good.
No, if you think of the way TV is planned by all the networks, you get the evening news, and then after the evening news, 7:30, everybody's winding down. They just watch the news. They'll throw in a game show or something light, and then lead you into a sitcom or something, and then more drama. So your evening is planned. You're going through these motions, totally controlled by networks.
So we walk into families that aren't really positively, intentionally utilizing this principle. What we see is a lot of runaway. We see a small list of emotional regulation techniques, but we see them running away. We see them uncontrolled, which really, really looks like addiction. And of course, the the actual emotion that it all seems to degenerate to, if you're not intentional, is anger.
Yeah.
So we walk into these family systems and we see a lot of anger. You know,
Right. Even after you've watched a number of hours of TV, your body is dysregulated, physiologically dysregulated. You've been sitting for such a long period of time, probably unhealthy eating, just and you've wasted a whole evening, and you just more irritated. It's not like it even works. It helps calm you down.
well,
These
Fanny,
are-
I'm starting to get irritated right now because you're describing my life.
So,
What's the last one? What's the last thing
one?
that we?
Blame.
Yeah.
It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. I'm never have any responsibility into this. It's everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
So,
You know, the classic statement, as we said before, is "you make me feel," but it goes beyond that. You know, you don't even take responsibility for the behaviors that come from your own dysregulation,
right.
and you start to blame your own behaviors on the people who are causing
Right.
you to feel fear, generating fear in you, I
Yeah.
should say.
Yeah, it's all his fault. Then I wouldn't be angry. It's all her fault, or I wouldn't feel sad, or I wouldn't feel scared. And with this, families can't even name emotions a lot of times. It's that frustrated, irritated.
Right? You don't think about it.
No.
The nice thing about this particular principle and all the principles that we're going to be teaching is that it's correctable. Is that it's just a matter of learning the skills. Our brains are designed, that our frontal cortex is to be in charge of our emotional brain. About 40, we can change it about 40% of the time. In the next video, we're going to be looking at what it looks like when this principle is positively managed by the adults in the system.
Yeah, I see such a link here with Principle 2, limbic brains share, harmonize.
Yep.
And if that parent isn't regulated, you're going to get dysregulated kids.
Absolutely.
So if you want less dysregulated kids, this is a place to start working.
We've laughed over many years that you don't just get dysregulated kids, you get dysregulated pets.
That's true. That's true. When we walk into a family and then dogs in particular are running amok, it's like, oh, we've got this.
Well, certainly after 20 years, we could give you a lot of examples, but we're going to end this video right now. Please join us for the next video where we're going to talk about what a family system looks like when they are positively using this principle in it.
Thank you.